Thank you very much, Annie. So it gives me the opportunity to thank Annie for this invitation to this interesting workshop, and at the same time, I would like to thank her, in fact, for having accepted the invitation of the Collège de France for 1 year with this beautiful series of lectures that she gave at the Collège de France every week. So the task that Annie assigned me is to speak about the last 20,000 years. Actually, I just updated my title by putting 21 instead of 20. This is just some cosmetic work, but you will see that there is some importance to that. So this is to set up the background. And 21,000 years before present corresponds, in fact, to what we call the last glacial maximum. So this is a picture of the last glacial maximum, or what the northern hemisphere looked like at that time. And this corresponds, in fact, to a time that is 21,000 years before the present, or 21 kiloyears before present. Actually, formally, it was known in carbon-14 ages as the 18K map. And we know now that 18K corresponds to 21. That's the reason why I changed the title. So during that time period, there were major changes in climate, in sea ice, in temperature, in currents, especially in the northern hemisphere, because of large ice sheets that were sitting directly on top of Canada. So this is just a old map that is still being used because it is probably unsurpassed in terms of artistic quality. I mean, for the purpose of the talk, I still use it because I like it, and the update that we know today are details at that scale. So we can see the Laurentide ice sheet that was sitting on top of Canada, so 4 kilometers of ice. We had also the Fennoscandian ice sheet with different domes in northern Europe. And obviously, this is the main reason why for the sea level drop during the last glacial maximum. We know about the position of the Laurentide ice sheet and the Fennoscandian ice sheet by looking and dating moraines. So we know the extent of these ice sheets quite well by dating the terminal moraines. And we know also about the size, the volume of the ice sheets based on, and I have no time to comment on that, we know about that based on oxygen isotopes, both in foraminifera and also in pore fluids in deep sea sediment. But we have another proof that came a long time ago about the size of the ice sheet is coming from this process of the post-glacial rebound that we will hear probably a lot during the next 2 days. And this is just an effect that is due to the presence of the ice sheet. So this is just a cartoon summarizing what is post-glacial rebound. Actually, it's better probably to use the other term, GIA, glacial isostatic adjustment, because in fact this adjustment after the ice sheets have disappeared is affecting the whole Earth. It's not only a rebound. I mean, the rebound, strictly speaking, is corresponding in fact to the uplift that in the zone where the ice sheets were directly sitting, but also, as you can see on that cartoon already, in the peripheral forebulge, there is subsidence. So we know about that process that is directly the memory of the glacial maximum 20,000 years before present, and it is not only of academic interest, because it is also something that can be used, in fact, to calculate the volume with modeling. With geophysical modeling, we can know about the volume of the different ice sheets, but also it's possible with the same model to correct the influences of this post-glacial rebound on satellite data, on tide gauges, on gravimetric data also by satellite. So all sorts of processes that still continue today. And just to show you a proof of this rebound that still continues today, I show you a picture of the GPS recent measurements in North America, where you can see the uplift and also the subsidence corresponding to the forebulge, and we have also the same in Scandinavia. So this is a picture from Scandinavia about the equivalent, and there is a quite good match between the different techniques, between GPS and tide gauges. Obviously, another way, in fact, to get true information about the sea level and volume of the ice sheet is to track paleo sea level. And the main difficulty with paleo sea level to look at the glacial maximum is that most of the fossils and the information, the archives, are now submerged. So we have to go below the ocean to collect those information, those archives. So I've been doing that over the last 20 years of my career, and I started by, I looked at different islands with colleagues in the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Indian Ocean, including, I've seen Paolo Pirazzoli. We went on the island of Sumba in the mid-90s, but most of the work that we have been doing recently concerns, in fact, the island of Tahiti. Tahiti is a hotspot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and we have been drilling onshore first, the Tahiti Barrier Reef, to collect corals, fossil corals, in order to date them and to get sea level information between the glacial maximum and the present day. So this is a picture of the harbor of Papeete, which is probably the ugliest place in Polynesia. But the good thing with Papeete is that the harbor is constructed, and it's possible to access the Barrier Reef directly with a road. So we first studied, in fact, vertical drills, and then a few years later, in collaboration with the IRD colleagues, we also drilled in order to collect deeper corals. We drilled at a deviated angle in order to collect new corals and to get a complete record of fossil corals. And this is a picture of the Barrier Reef of Tahiti today. And the unfortunate aspect of coring corals is that sea level is moving up and down, and the corals are following, in fact, the sea level, which means that in order to collect the glacial maximum corals, we have to drill offshore. So we did that then because the record based on onshore drills was incomplete. We did that in the frame of the program. First, we submitted a proposal to ODP in '98, Ocean Drilling Program, and then it took 7 years, in fact, to come to light this expedition 310 offshore Tahiti. So we drilled at different locations around the island of Tahiti with that ship in order to study the last deglaciation. So it took us 7 years, in fact, to get to convince, in fact, ODP to drill offshore Tahiti, and then 7 more years, in fact, to get the results in the lab, because one of the difficulties that we need, in fact, quite sophisticated techniques, in fact, to date those corals. So this is just an illustration of the 2 machines that we used to date the corals of Tahiti. This is an accelerator for doing carbon-14. This is a solid source mass spectrometer with double focusing for measuring the uranium thorium. And just as just to give you the information, we are in the lab in Aix-en-Provence. At the CEREGE, we are in the process of updating, in fact, those techniques. In fact, these are the new machines that will be installed this year on my campus in Aix-en-Provence, a new accelerator for carbon-14 and a new MCIC PMS to get more throughput and have more precise data on corals. Anyway, so when we have this, when we date, this is the end result that I wanted to share with you. This is the updated Tahiti sea level curve that over the last 20,000 years over the last 20,000 years of climate history, the scale is here in meter. So as you can see, each point corresponds to one coral that is representing the sea level, and we date it by uranium thorium and carbon-14 to check that the numbers are correct. And as you can see, this as shown by this sea level curve, we have an enormous sea level change of more than 100 meters over this time period that lasted about 10,000 years, the last deglaciation. And what we can see is that there is the different colors correspond, in fact, to the different drills. We first drilled, and we based our analysis to vertical drills that are represented in blue. Then we had, several years later, the deviated drills that were shown here, that are shown here in green. And then we more recently published a paper with the update based on the IODP corals that corresponds, in fact, to the deeper corals in order to get the full 120 meters of sea level change over the last deglaciation. What was also not a surprise, because I will show you that we had similar information before that, but we confirmed, in fact, the presence of a significant sea level step that occurred at about 14.5 thousand years before the present, which we call Meltotopos 1a. And it's possible also to calculate rates of sea level rise over the full time period. And on average, the sea level rate of rise over the last glaciation is is in excess of 10 millimeter of 1 centimeter per year. So 10 millimeter per year, if we take that as a unit, as you can see. But we can see that there are variable rates over the last glaciation, including and especially this massive rise of sea level that is corresponding to rates on the order of 40 to 50 millimeter per year during this Meltotropes 1A. And as you can see, when we go towards the Holocene, in fact, the rate of sea level rise is dropping, and then over most of the Holocene, it's less than a millimeter per year. And it depends on, I could show you different sites, but it would be about the same. As I said to you, we had already some information before that. We had when I was a postdoc at Lamont and then working in collaboration with Rick Fairbanks, we already had drilled the island of Barbados, and this is taken directly from one of the publications that we had in 1990, based on the corals that were drilled offshore Barbados. And at that time, we were not even knowing that there was a shift between the carbon-14 and uranium-thorium. So this is the reason why you have two sea level curves here. But now we know that they merge on top of the uranium-thorium curve. And at that time, we already identified, in fact, this Meltotropes 1A that occurred in the middle of the last glaciation. That is on the order of 15 to 20 meters of sea level rise over a few centuries. The reason why we wanted, in fact, to go to the Pacific is that it's better. Barbados has some technicalities, some difficulties linked to the tectonic uplift there, and also it's good. I have no time to comment on that, but to compare different sites, because we look also at the gradients of the sea level rise at different locations in order to fingerprint the ice sheets where the ice was coming from. This is a compilation. So now, today, there are only a few sites. In fact, when we put on the graph all the information that we have on the full glacial, interglacial, we have only a few sites. So again, I took that from a recent compilation by Carlson and Clark in 2012 in Reviews of Geophysics. We have the Tahiti corals, the Barbados corals that are still constituting the backbone of the last glaciation. We have also some information from New Guinea corals, from the Sunda Shelf peat sediments, and also from a submerged basin offshore Australia for the deeper part of the last glaciation. But basically what we see is that there is a massive rise that is in excess of 10 millimeters per year, and all information converge to say that there is a massive step that is corresponding to Meltotropes 1A. I have no time, in fact, to describe to you the Holocene, and I jump, in fact, directly to the last part of the record, that is there are also some information, not corals, but other type of information based on foramifera, transfer functions, statistical transfer functions that have an information on the order of a millimeter, of a few centimeters. And this is from a recent paper by Kemp et al., the sea level change over the last 2 millennia. And as you can see, in that case, the total range is quite small. There is not much happening during the first millennium of the history. There is a rise during the medieval time period. And then the only significant rise that we can see on that record is corresponding to the last century. And obviously, I have no time to explain all that. Also, these data have to be corrected for a significant GIA, or post-glacial rebound. And there are some controversies about what are the best values to do that. But what remains is that there is a significant rise at the end of the record that is corresponding, that matches with the tide gauges that are observed in the zone in North Carolina. So this is the last graph that I wanted to show you at the end of the record from 21 to today. This is the match between the paleo data and the significant sea level rise that is also evidenced by the tide gauges in that zone. And I will stop with this last graph. Thank you very much for your attention.